I was invited just to give an overview of some of the insights TasNetworks has gained from our customer engagement work, and I've focused on our electricity network customers here. And I guess I'm starting with, this is a busy slide, but I draw your attention to our vision. So when TasNetworks was set up, we thought long and hard about what is the vision for this business. And in large part at the moment, more than 90% of our income and our profitability comes from regulated network services, and many customers still can't choose an alternative, although that's obviously changing. So what we wanted is that customers who couldn't necessarily choose an alternative would trust TasNetworks, and they'd trust that we would deliver the services they need today, but also that they'd trust that we had an eye to the future, so that we were delivering today, but we were also part of creating a better tomorrow. And like Aurora, we are a Tasmanian business, and so we see that that's creating a better tomorrow for our customers directly, but also for the broader Tasmanian community. So our engagement has really been shaped by putting the customer at the heart of our thinking as a business. And we, Lance, who's here, is our CEO, in setting up TasNetworks, the whole message was to our people was, we're not a poles and wires business, we're part of a value chain where we move energy and we create value in the service we offer, rather than just being an engineering business. Clearly the engineering is very important, but it's a means to an end to deliver customer service. So, we have 4 pillars to our strategy, and I'm not going to run through them, but our customers are a key pillar, and our goal is to make sure we actually understand our customers and make them central to all we do. Our people are another pillar. It's through our people and our culture and how we enable our people that we can deliver customer and shareholder value. We have a pillar that was one business, and it reflected that we came together as a merger of a transmission business and the distribution, part of a distribution business. And we wanted to really harness the synergies from the two parts of the previous businesses with a one business mentality. We are now looking to change that to be our business, so our TasNetworks, not least because we've moved on from merger, we are one business, but also that we actually have new ring fencing obligations that say that we can't be one business anymore. We have to actually separate out some of the competitive elements of our business going forward. And of course we are a business, so another pillar is around our owners and making sure we do have an eye to running a commercial business that provides returns to our owners, the state of Tasmania. So I wasn't going to go through more detail, but this is all available on our website, and I know many of you have seen it before. I thought I'd just step back and look at who our customers are at a really, really high level. So the top circle you've got there just talks about who gets energy, who receives the energy we deliver. And more than half the energy in Tasmania goes to 4 major industrial customers, and that's starkly different to any other network in Australia. We have another small number in the yellowy orange there who are other smaller transmission connected customers, and then the blue are our distribution customers. So the red, our big industry, use most of the energy, but when we talk about the use of our network, it's actually our distribution customers that contribute most to our peak demand. So they use less energy, but they've got inherently more peaky demand. And that's because most of those big industries sit 24/7 using flat load. When we think about some of our challenges, the distribution network, we're looking at how do we use our network more efficiently over the long term, particularly for the distribution customers. And then the other circled pie chart we've got is our energy and the generators, who are also customers of ours. And people often forget that Australia does have the cleanest energy in Australia. So people say, oh, South Australia is the renewable energy state. No, Tasmania is the renewable energy state. And South Australia gets excited where they have days or weeks with clean energy. We have months where all the energy is renewable. So we've obviously got hydro as the dominant source of energy. We've got a number of wind farms, and we've got proposals for future wind farms in the state. We've got a gas turbine, and we've increasingly seen generation coming into our distribution network, or embedded generation, and solar PV is obviously part of that story. Oh, the other thing to note, I haven't done that very well, is that we connect the market, the privately owned Basslink interconnector, and in the context of the Tasmanian load and generation mix, that is either a very big load or a very big generator. And so we've done some really clever engineering things working with our customers and with Hydro Tasmania and Basslink to actually allow that link to operate at full capacity with agreements with customers and generators to shed load under contract or shed generation under contract so that we can manage big contingencies. So we've done lots of really clever engineering to make our network work for the benefit of our customers. And Finkel has really recognised some of the smarts that have been brought to bear in Tasmania to give good customer outcomes. So we use all sorts of forums and tools to engage with our customers. We have lots of customers who have lots of services. And one of the key activities we did in setting up TasNetworks was create a customer council, and a number of the members of the audience here today are a part of that council. And that we took a really broad definition of customer in that context. We thought about the people we work for in terms of end customers and retailers who obviously are a big customer, but also the people we work with. So that's people like electrical contractors, peak bodies, and other stakeholders. So it's a very broad customer council that represents our key stakeholders. And we also established some special purpose groups. So we've got a pricing reform working group that's been helping us navigate particularly distribution pricing reforms. We've got a framework for major account management, and that started with our major transmission customers, and over time we're looking to extend that to our major distribution customers. We run a range of forums around the state, so we create a mini public where we have a sort of a representative sample of our Tasmanian community to give us feedback on key issues. We also ran, and again a number of you in the room attended, a whole series of updates around the work Energy Networks Australia and the CSIRO did on the network transformation roadmap. So that's helping customers here in Tasmania see the research that's being done to think about how the energy sector is transforming, what it means for customers and what it means for networks, and how we can shape a future there. And it's worth noting that the CSIRO said we had the best attendance, the most diverse engagement from that forum from anywhere in Australia. And so we have the smallest customer group, but we had the most engaged people who attended, so thank you to those who attended. But I think it also reflects we take it really seriously, that we're not doing this for our own sakes, we're doing it to deliver good customer outcomes. Another thing that's a really important part of how we engage and help shape the future is a metering and pricing trial that we're doing in the Southern Midlands area. We're calling that Empowering You at the moment. And we've just put 600 advanced meters on the wall of a range of residential dwellings. They're off-market meters, and for the first time those customers and ourselves are seeing real-time data about how these customers are using our network, and we're about to roll out an app so those customers can actually see that. And we gave a demonstration at our recent customer council, and a lot of customer council members were very keen to get the metering in the app. So I think, as Grant's alluded to, with advanced metering, competition in metering, there are some really interesting opportunities to engage with customers in different ways. And certainly we're using this trial to help us understand how we engage with customers, what information is useful, how can we explain pricing, is our concept that moving to a demand-based tariff where we're measuring the peak loading of a customer on our network, can customers understand that? Can they respond to it? What tools do they need, etc. So it's we've got a lot of partners in that trial, but we're seeing it in part as an engagement trial about what works for customers and how can we be most effective in engaging and achieving good outcomes. We're using lots of tools. We're increasingly using social media, and there's a whole different audience that now engages with us that way. However, we also recognise that we've got a really diverse group of customers, some who don't even look at social media. So we continue to recognise that engagement has to have many tools into the future. We tested the concept of regional town hall meetings. We got feedback we hadn't done enough regional work. So one way we tried was to go into some of our more regional towns, and we got good support from councils and media outlets in promoting the forums, and we got very few attendees, although Jack did turn up to one, thank you. So it was worth testing to see whether that worked, and discovered it wasn't terribly effective. So what we have found is more effective is to find existing events that people are already going to and have stands or sessions as part of those forums. An example of that is last weekend, a small team, we went up to the Ulverston EcoFest, and we had an electric vehicle demonstration car there, and we had a stall about our network services and how we're trying to change pricing and help customers understand that network charges in Tassie are about half the bill, and over time we want people to use our network more efficiently so that we can bring those charges down. So we have a survey we run every year about this time. We do it at AgFest as well and online. And we took that survey and we actually ran out of paper copies of the survey. People are really engaged. Having an iPad prize as an incentive helped. But it's a really great way just to say to people, how are you finding your power supply? Are you happy with the level of outages? What could we do to increase your satisfaction? So we've got a survey we run every year, and we can track trend data and understand what it tells us. I think the thing that comes through really clearly and has over time through those surveys is the one thing we can do to most increase customer satisfaction is reduce prices. So in our whole part of our pillars around the customer is to have sustainable and predictable prices. So we continue to run our business with a real focus on how do we transform in a really complicated, changing future with lots of technical challenges, but how do we do that in a way that is affordable for Tasmanian customers? Some of our key consultation activities, which are, I guess, more global consultation, are highlighted here, and I'll start over in the far corner. So building on from the work that we did with energy networks all around Australia and CSIRO, we've looked to a future which is saying customers will want more choice and more control around how they use energy and how they manage energy. And we still need to have safe and reliable energy. We still need to make sure that we haven't left behind the most disadvantaged in our community in how we provide energy services. And we need to make sure the pricing gives the right incentives so that we actually only build the network we need. And as part of that, we're building our own TasNetworks strategy. And I guess one of the real trends we're seeing, and we'll come and engage with customers to share this, is that we're going to have to spend a lot more on technology into the future, because our distribution network is going to have more and more two-way flows and customers using energy differently. And we're going to need to be monitoring that network much more closely than we do today to be able to manage power flows and send the right pricing signals. So that's some of the work that we're seeing now, and we'll come and share that analysis with customers and engage. Because it may be that we can say, look, we can get this far and go more quickly if we spend this much money, or we can be a bit cheaper but not as fancy and have some constraints if we delay some of that spend. So there's some of the engagement that we see coming. We engage every year on our annual planning report, and that's a document really around what are the constraints in our network, what are the options that can fix those constraints, be it do we need to build something bigger, do we need to replace something, how do we make all these wind farms connect and keep the system stable. So that's out for consultation now and on our website. And we engage with our customer council to say, how do you want us to engage on a document like that? And I guess some of the feedback was, well, you need to tell us what we need to know, but we're really interested in what affects us rather than a big document. So we're looking at how we take the key messages from that document and look at key audiences and share a more targeted version there. We're doing all this engagement because we're now on the pathway to our next revenue reset. So we're about to get a distribution decision that will set our distribution income for 2 years, for the next 2 financial years. And I guess the really positive thing is all the indications are the AR gave us a draft decision that looked very like our proposal, and we should get a final decision that looks very like our proposal. And that reflects that we did engage with customers. We put in a fair proposal that did reflect the consultation, and the AR has got pretty consistent feedback that we did a reasonable job in that engagement. So that's really fantastic for us. What we're trying to do now is emulate that as we go forward for our next combined transmission and distribution proposal, and that's lodged next January. So this year is really getting into the meat of that proposal. The other thing I'd say is that whilst our customers are really interested in revenue, they're more interested in prices, and it's how it turns up for them. So we'll continue to have our pricing reform working group to look at some of the key issues around pricing. Just some of the takeaways for us is that we are still testing and learning about how we can effectively engage. You can spend a lot of money on engaging and not actually achieve a lot. So if we're trying to be affordable, we have to look at how do we do the right engagement at the right times with the right people. We are using the IAPT2 spectrum there for customer and consumer engagement, and we're constantly testing ourselves. Where are we? Are we really just telling customers because there's no choice, this is a safety issue, what have you, or is there actually some choice, and we're testing whether or not we're engaging with you about a choice that we can make. And we also are testing where different customers expect us to be. So I guess in the annual planning report, Bell Bay Aluminium is pretty interested in the work we're doing at Georgetown Substation. A mum and dad customer in Georgetown is actually less interested in what we're doing. So it's just recognising who we engage with and how. We also continue to learn from our customers. We can fall quite quickly into making assumptions that don't serve us. And before one of our forums, one of our engineers said, well, we'll get all the customers into groups of satisfaction, and we'll put all the people who've got lots of outages and they're less satisfied in one corner, and least outages, most satisfied in another. And we just said, well, don't assume because you have more outages that you're less satisfied. And so let's run the exercise to line up along the room and say who's most satisfied, 10 very satisfied, 1 least satisfied, and then let's extract why that satisfaction's there. And what we learnt is that it's not about the number of outages you have at all, because it's actually a lot of the customers who have lots of outages are in rural communities, and they manage that and they expect that and they're okay with it. They have backup generators, they have expectations that that's the level of reliability they'll receive. It's the customers who aren't used to that and who have a very long or an unexpected outage that can't manage it that are the ones who are less satisfied. And also our recent data showed that when you've had more than 5 outages in a year and you haven't had a history of outages, your satisfaction drops. So we're using all that sort of data and insight to help inform our reliability strategies and target where we spend our money. We also have a really diverse customer base, as I've touched on, so we continue to recognise that and work out how we get best outcomes. The other thing I'd say that's been fantastic, and the customer council and the pricing working groups really highlighted this, is sometimes it's great to bring the customers together to share the challenge we face in balancing diverse customer needs, and actually let the customers have the discussion themselves rather than us having to be an arbitrator. So and sometimes we ask a bit of role playing to go on, so others have to think just beyond their own interest group. So that's been fantastic. Just a quick couple of case studies I thought I'd share. We have state-based reliability standards for transmission, which says what level do you need to build your transmission network to. And we worked really closely with the state to develop those so customers, and particularly given our Tasmanian base, our really big industrial customers, they can choose if they don't want us to meet the standards, and they can actually write and say we're prepared to accept a lower level of reliability in exchange for a lower cost. And those standards, every 5 years, we come back and say to those customers, we're about to do our next reset. Are you still happy with your present level, or would you like us to meet the vanilla standard? And we think that's a fantastic model for our customer base, where we can actually, some customers may say, I'd like higher reliability and I'll pay for it. And others may say, you know what, I'm a bit cash strapped and I'll wear the risk that I could have a very long outage. We had a recent customer council meeting where we tested with our customer council basically fixing a mistake. Our service incentive, we'd over-penalised ourselves in our reporting. And so we tested with the customer council, okay, we want to be trusted by customers. If we make a mistake in our favour, we'll give the money back. If we make one in your favour, we ask that we get the money. So we tested the concept of fixing mistakes. And the customer council gave us really strong feedback that it's not a symmetrical relationship, that we've got far more information and far more control. And if we make a mistake, that's to our benefit. We need to give that back to customers. We need to make sure we haven't over-recovered revenue. But if we've made a mistake that's disadvantaged us, we just have to wear that. That was the strong feedback. And a number of the business members said, I can't go back to my customers and say, sorry, I didn't charge you enough, I've just got another bill here. And so we tested that, and we did test the opposite concept around, okay, so can you go back to your customer if you've overcharged them and say, I'll give you some back? And he said, I probably wouldn't do that either. But in your case you should, because you've got far more power. So that was a genuine engagement piece, and we're now advising our board this month that we seek not to recover that on the basis of living up to our vision of being trusted by our customers. Means we need to own those mistakes where we've got the control, I guess, of the outcome. And the other thing is, I guess, an impending piece that we are continuing to work on our pricing and tariff structures, and in particular looking at how we anticipate this future with more and more distributed energy resources like batteries, continuation of solar, electric vehicles. And so we've got some examples, we've got some recommendations. We want to test those with our customer council before we go to wider engagement. So I guess at the heart, what we're trying to say is we do have a vision that is very important to us, which is to be trusted, and it's really underpinned our engagement activities. And that's it. Thank you.